Howdy folks, my name is Marcus Stewart and welcome to Call It in the Ring, a wrestling recap and discussion show. We are talking about Smackdown Live, the October 2nd show of 2018. We are 2 days in to Halloween month and we've got a big show to cover, so let's hop right to it. So first, Paige comes out and she talks about last week's cliffhanger ending with Samoa Joe visiting AJ Styles' house, and I guess that's putting it relatively lightly. Trespassing would be the more accurate term, and the show ended when Joe rang the doorbell, declared that Daddy was home, and then cut to black. So we're going to find out what exactly went down at the Styles house. She informs us that right after that moment that she alerted the authorities, the local cops, and they rushed to the scene. Apparently, Joe never entered the house, and charges have been filed against him. And she declares Joe's trespassing on AJ's home the worst crime in WWE history. Now, anyone that's been watching WWE long enough is, or at least should be, more than used to their hyperbole. But this just made me laugh out loud. It's the worst crime in WWE history. Like, it's not even the worst or like the most horrific home invasion in WWE history, let alone a crime. And to prove this, I compiled a short list of home invasions or just things that have been done involving a wrestler's house that it's far worse than Samoa Joe going to the house, filming a selfie video, and just kind of being all menacing, but not actually getting to do anything. And I'm just going to read through them real quick. Let's see. Stone Cold Steve Austin breaks into Brian Pillman's home, where Brian Pillman fires a gun at him. Let's see. Triple H literally smashes his way into Randy Orton's home using a sledgehammer and proceeds to get into a brawl with Orton that culminates with him throwing Orton through his own front window into his lawn and getting arrested by the end of it. Let's see. Matt Hardy in storyline once burned down Jeff Hardy's house. Randy Orton once burned down Bray Wyatt's house, or at least the house of Sister Abigail, his dead witch friend, mother, whatever she is. Let's see. Ultimate Deletion, which was a giant fight at Matt Hardy's house where Matt Hardy, in a sense, murdered Bray Wyatt or attempted to murder him by drowning him in a lake. Let's see. And of course, and again, involving Wyatt. Man, Bray Wyatt has a lot of things that happen at his, on his property. The giant gang battle between the New Day and the Wyatt family at the Wyatt family compound, which, that would qualify as a riot or just gang violence, probably. So yeah, I would say all of these are probably more heinous crimes than Samoa Joe just kind of being a jerk in front of AJ's house, but I digress. Anyways, apparently, Paige spoke to the executives at WWE who agreed that Joe should be fired, and she decided to bring this decision to AJ, but AJ said, He pulled a Vince McMahon and said firing him would be too easy, and said that he wants to face him himself, and he wants the match at Super Showdown this Saturday to remain on, because he will take care of him himself, and Paige agreed. And without further ado, we get a video of AJ Styles, who is at his home, and he is very, very shaken up. And AJ actually gives a pretty solid performance here, where he talks about how he's very sorry about not being at the arena, but after what Joe pulled last week, he basically didn't feel comfortable leaving his house, and that he wants to stay here, and that he is not leaving the house again until he has confirmation that Joe is on his flight headed to Australia. And I like that because AJ really did seem rattled and paranoid, which makes sense. Hey, he's like, I wasn't here and something really bad could have happened. Thankfully it didn't, but he's not taking any chances this time. He loves his family. He talks about how he how his daughter has had trouble sleeping and keeps believing that Uncle Joe is going to appear somewhere and is scared. And that is, breaking AJ's heart. And then AJ shifts into getting really mad and but not like not so much yelling, just kind of like that quiet seething rage, which is even better. And he says that at Super Showdown, it may be down under, but he is going to put Joe 6 feet under, and he doesn't mean that he's going to put him in a casket and, put him in a grave or whatever, but he is going to bury Joe alive. And at first I was terrified that this meant the match was going to become a buried alive match. I was like, oh, no. But thankfully it is still the same no DQ, no countouts, must be a winner stipulation. But this was a nice promo from AJ, some nice emotion. And also nice little twist with him at his house. Nice touch there. It felt believable, so I like that. And I've been in this feud has been very enjoyable. Next up, our first match, we got Andrade Cien Almas teaming up with Zelina Vega to take on R-Truth and Carmella. This was nothing special. Some cute stuff here with the two teams posing off, and some decent back and forth. Carmella as a face again, inexplicably. Sure, I guess, why not? And then the good guys win after and kind of a slick ending where it started with Almas pulling Carmella off of a pin and Carmella taking offense to that and going for a kick, which Andrade blocks, but then R-Truth comes in and takes him out. And then Zelina tries to sneak up and get a roll up, but then Carmella rolls through and locks in the Code of Silence, which is her submission move that also sounds like the subtitle for a Castlevania game, and gets the win. Decent match, though. Almas and Vega, to me, are too big a stars, or too big of an upside to be losing to R-Truth. Carmella, at least, was a women's champion not that long ago, so her tapping out Zelina is less of a problem, but in general, I want to see some more forward momentum for Almas and Vega. So, Ty Dillinger's backstage, and he asked Paige for Randy Orton. He wants Randy Orton's head on a silver platter because of Orton beating the snot out of him last week. Paige is not so high on this, reminding Ty that we have yet to hear or see Jeff Hardy since Orton took him out in Hell in a Cell, and asking if that's really what he wants. But Ty understands the danger, but he also isn't gonna, he's not gonna take that lying down. He's like, I gotta do this. I gotta do this. And Paige reluctantly makes the match between the two later that night. We go back to the ring, and the New Day have a table and some cooking pancake like batter and mixed stuff set up, and they're in chef outfits, and they're debuting their new segment called New Day Cooks. And it's basically going to just be them making pancakes. Big E drops a pretty funny Ico Pro reference, saying Ico Pro sponsored the show, before Woods reminds him that it's 2018. And we also get Mr. Bootyworth, who is the little butler guy with the top hat and the tuxedo t-shirt that hangs out with New Day and just kind of brings them pancakes. Apparently this recipe comes straight from him because he is the one responsible for making all the pancakes. And he's going to speak. We're going to let him talk for the first time. Unfortunately, right before Bootyworth can grace us with his speech, the bar interrupts and rips on the New Day, saying, same old stupid crap from you guys. Xavier freaks out, saying that the bar has ruined their pilot for their cooking show that they were going to send straight to Guy Fieri. And Cesaro brags about the cooking prowess of Switzerland in terms of their baked goods, and says how back home he's called chef. And they pretty much just talk about how they're better than New Day at everything. And they flip the table, and that, flipping over pancakes and ruining them those are fighting words, fighting gestures as far as New Day is concerned. And they get into a big 2-on-3 brawl. And the thing about New Day is that it always gets awkward when their faces, because they're when they get into a brawl when they're the team, they always have the advantage because there's 3 of them. So it's always been an awkward dynamic of the good guys having the upper hand and the numbers. I guess you kind of sometimes get that with the Shield, though the Shield usually since they're not like a tag team per se, they always go after other 3-man teams or whatever, or they just gang up on one person. It's either we're a gang that overwhelms you, or we're gonna go after the same opposing force or greater. Whereas New Day, because they're a tag team, they always go after a 2-man team. So to have a 2-man team try to rush them, and then it's either New Day gets the better, but it's like, well, yeah, of course they have 3 guys, or they lose, and you're like, you guys lost with 3 guys? Jeez, you guys suck. In this case, I guess New Day kind of sucked, because Cesaro and Sheamus get the upper hand by they break up the midnight hour, where I think it was Xavier that was going to do the top rope portion of the move. Before he can do it, the Bar throws a bag of flour and it explodes. So it's just this white cloud, and it knocks Woods off the top. I guess it's called the Midnight Flower. Moving on. And as the New Day is left laying, the Bar turns their attention to Mr. Bootyworth, who is in the corner looking concerned, scared, not sure. His face is, he's got a hard face to read, relatively emotionless. I'm not sure what he was, what he thought here, but Sheamus and Cesaro assure him that they are not going to harm Bootyworth. Of course, it doesn't stop them from being jerks, where they take his lovely top hat, they fill it with pancake batter, and they put it back on his head. And then they one-up themselves by taking the giant bowl of batter and dumping it all over Mr. Bootyworth. And not a great week or series of weeks for the New Day. The Bar has gotten over on them consistency, which in wrestling logic would suggest that New Day retains in Australia, but actually I could kind of see this going either way. But I'm going to say that New Day retains, and because they are the Bludgeon Brothers, will get their rematch once Eric Rowan is A-OK. Our next match is Ty Dillinger committing career suicide by taking on Randy Orton. During Orton's entrance, we are told that Evolution will reunite on the 1000th episode of Smackdown, which I think is in 2 weeks. I think it's 2 weeks or next week. I think it's 2 weeks. It's soon. Which is weird because Evolution have literally, and they do say that this is the first time Evolution will ever appear on SmackDown, which makes me wonder why it's even happening. It's like they have absolutely zero history on SmackDown, like none, like at all. Like, has Ric Flair even been on SmackDown? Like, he was never a member of the SmackDown roster in his modern day run. So, of all the things that you could bring back for SmackDown, what about a La Familia reunion? You've got 2 of them on the roster, and Ryder and Hawkins. Get Edge, Vicky, and Chavo back in there. And if you really want to go deep cut with that, bring back Bam Neely. Remember Bam Neely? Of course you don't. Anyways, Ty jumps Randy at the ramp before the bell and just unleashes a fire that could only be described as a perfect 10. He even reverses Randy's patented backdrop onto the table to deliver his own backdrop on the table to Randy, and then he mounts him and is just pounding on him, and Ty is just showing some nice fire here, not backing down. Unfortunately, Randy Orton realizes that he is Randy Orton fighting Ty Dillinger and turns it around pretty quick. He hits his Hangman DDT to Ty on the floor from the barricade, and then we get our next edition of the Randy Orton torture porn show, where he takes off the cover of the bar that connects the turnbuckle to the ring post, like that little in-between bar. He takes the padding off the bottom one, and then he takes Ty's hand and he sticks his index finger in the middle of the little opening in the bar, and then he starts yanking on his finger, basically trying to break his finger. And once again, the crowd freaks out at this because you're like, ah. And then Randy has his great psycho face. And Ty is, of course, writhing in pain. But the only thing I kept wondering was, why doesn't Ty, because Ty is right in front. So I'm trying. All right, let me paint the picture. So Orton is pulling his finger. He's right behind Ty, like right behind him when he's doing this. And Ty is just kind of like has his back to him because he's like, his arm's caught up and he's doing this, but his hand is right by Orton's face. Like they may as well be kissing. So it's like, why doesn't Ty just like deck him? Like just throw a punch from behind, just try to hit him and break it up. That's the only thing that kind of like bothered me about this segment is like, Ty, you could do something. Like if it hurts that bad, you'd be like swinging for the fences trying to get him. It's not like Orton's like leaning his head back or anything. So that was the only thing that bothered me about this. But it's another creative thing or a creative heel attack from Randy Orton that Randy's been on a roll this year, or at least since he turned heel. He's been very entertaining and doing things that he's never done and that we haven't really seen other heels do. And I always want to know, like, who's coming up with these sick attacks, and what does it say about that person? Like, is it Randy and the writers sitting backstage of like, how can Randy Orton just mess someone up this week? Like, what if he pulled his earlobe? What if he stuck his finger in the thing? Like, it's, man. And they haven't gotten too ridiculous with it yet. It kind of reminds me of when Kane unmasked in 2003 and went on his psycho spree, which was great until they kind of jumped the shark and got too ridiculous, where he famously electrocuted Shane McMahon's testicles by bringing out a car battery and hooking jumper cables to his crotch as he was kind of tied to the ring post. So they haven't gotten that ridiculous yet. These have been very grounded and visceral assaults from Randy. So as long as they keep it in that vein, he should be great. But nice way to showcase Ty here. I mean, yeah, he got destroyed, but I've said before that SmackDown, their biggest problem is that they don't really have a credible mid-card. So putting these guys like this, even though Ty lost, at least it gives him a featured spot. And if this keeps going, and it may as well, because it's not like Orton has selected his real next target yet, because he said last week that Ty is not his next target. But if Ty keeps pressing the issue, that could only be a good thing for him. So we'll see. But nice segment here. Backstage, we find out that Shelton Benjamin. Remember Shelton Benjamin? He's going to be taking on Daniel Bryan, which when you see that on the marquee, I'm just like, yes, please. And apparently this came about on social media with Shelton tweeting that he wants opportunities to Paige, and Paige saying, okay, he can face Bryan. And then as Shelton's preparing backstage, Miz comes up and kind of sucks up to him and hypes him up, saying, like, you're one of the best athletes on the roster. You're Shelton Benjamin. You've won all these titles. You should make a statement by tearing up Daniel Bryan tonight. Of course, Miz obviously trying to do anything he can to have Bryan injured before their match on Saturday. And Shelton gives a nice little intense thing, saying, pretty much echoing that, like, yeah, like I'm gonna remind everyone who Shelton Benjamin is, because I've been sitting on the sidelines, and that Bryan will unfortunately be unlucky casualty number 1. And Miz also says that he will be commentating during this match. Let's see, Aiden English is getting ready for his video proof of the Milwaukee incident. Rusev comes to the ring with Lana and says that he wants to tear Aiden's pale body apart, but he also wants to see this alleged evidence of Lana possibly slipping up, we'll say, according to Aiden. Aiden comes out and says, let's do it. But first, let's just talk about Milwaukee real quick. He's like, it's the largest state in Wisconsin. It's got this rich film history. He goes on and on for a bit where Alana calls him out saying that he's stalling. But Aiden simply says he's providing context for the video. And he talks about the film history. And he mentions that basketball is a tear-jerking drama. Like, remember the film Basketball by Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the South Park guys? I was like tear-jerking, because he lists the tear-jerking dramas, and I forgot the first film he said, but the second one he said basketball, and I did a double tap. I was like, no? What? Sure? That's random? Like, did you mean, like, at first I thought he meant, like, Love and Basketball, which would be that, but basketball. Okay. I was like, I haven't seen baseball in a long time. Maybe I need to rewatch it. Okay. Anyways, we finally get the video. And it's kind of a selfie video of Aiden practicing his song ripping on Milwaukee, and he's trying to come up with different lyrics to make fun of the town. And then he gets a knock on his hotel room. He goes to open it, leaving his phone recorded. And we see that it is Lana, which I was surprised. I thought going in, I was like, maybe he'll get someone that, like, this isn't old footage. He just clearly filmed this earlier, but he gets someone that looks like Lana, or it looks enough like her, but, like, obscures her face where we think it's her. But no, it is Lana. She comes into the room, and she's like, hey, I got to talk to you. This isn't going to take long. But I got something I really want to tell you, and I've wanted to tell you for a while. And then she says, I want you, and then it cuts. And then everyone's like, oh, and Rusev looks at Lana, and he's like, kind of has his face like, explain? And Lana is saying that you can kind of hear her, like, she doesn't say this on the mic, but you can hear her kind of protesting, saying that that's not, there's more to it, which, clearly there is. Like, the way it's cut, it's like, clearly she was going to say something else, like, I want you, and then there was going to be more like, I want you to go grab lunch for all I know, but it was going to be something else. But then just the idea is that Aiden cut it that way to make it suggest that Lana has been unfaithful. But Rusev doesn't deal with Lana for long, because then he turns his attention to Aiden and jumps out of the ring and chases Aiden to the back, leaving Lana in the ring looking distressed, and the crowd kind of giving her a mixed reaction. But, and also the commentator's reaction is great, where, like, they shift to the commentators and they have that, like, awkward look of, like, it's kind of like the feeling you get when you're at, like, if you're a little kid and you got, like mommy and daddy are arguing at the table, and then, I don't know, somebody hits somebody, and you're like, okay, I guess we're going to pretend to keep eating, like, this isn't happening. Corey has a great kind of, like, face where he's clearly amused by all this. Byron and Tom have that, like, oh god, mommy and daddy are fighting look. And Corey's just leaning in his chair like, this is juicy stuff. And he's just like reveling in this drama. So yeah, this was cool. I like this, and I want to see where it goes. Backstage, as Daniel Bryan makes his way to the ring to face Shelton, we cut to backstage, and Rusev is looking for Aiden English, and he goes up to this random guy, and he's like, where's Aiden? And for some reason, the guy has this really, like, almost comically stoic face, and he kind of slowly turns his body and points dramatically in a random direction, and it was so weird, because I was like, why did he do it like that? Like, it was like a weird, it was just weird. Like, it was not like a regular, oh, he's over there. This guy was like, looking like Superman. Like, if you ask like Henry Cavill's Superman to point directions, that just the most dramatic point ever, like, this way, my child. So that was like, okay, I don't know what was going on there. That guy maybe was trying to get himself over. But he runs to Lana, and Lana, of course, claims that that is not what it looks like, and that there's more. But Rusev says, I don't want to do this right now. We'll talk, I don't want to talk about this right now, and continues to go searching for Aiden. So we get our next match. Daniel Bryan, Shelton Benjamin, and Miz is on commentary. Shelton's very aggressive to start. Like, he runs Bryan over as soon as the bell starts, and continues to run him over, hitting a bunch of running knees to Bryan's ribs. And that becomes his target throughout this match, that he keeps targeting Bryan's abdominal section, throwing him around, slamming him on, doing a lot of knees. And Bryan's having to fight for underneath, but eventually it's a nice back and forth match, as you would expect, between Daniel Bryan and Shelton Benjamin. Miz the whole time is talking about how he's going to do whatever it takes, by hook or by crook. He doesn't care if he has to cheat, because he will do anything necessary to become the number one contender for the WWE Championship at Super Showdown. Eventually, in a somewhat surprising finish, Bryan finally turns it around, and it's setting up the running knee. And then Miz gets off commentary and rushes the ring apron to distract him. Bryan bolts over there and decks Miz, sending him flying off the apron. But as soon as Bryan turns around, he walks right into pay dirt, Shelton Benjamin's finisher, and Shelton gets the pin. Big win for Shelton. Maybe the biggest he's had since he's gotten back, unless I'm forgetting something, but I didn't expect that. So I was like, oh, nice. And then Miz who is now upset that Bryan hit him, gets back into the ring and continues to beat up on Bryan's now hurt ribs. He throws him outside. He slams his midsection into the edge of the announce table, throws him back into the ring, hits the skull crushing finale, and just kind of like taunts over his dead body that whatever it takes, he's going to beat him at Super Showdown and get that title shot. So this was a nice all around good match. Good to see Shelton get a push for the same reason I've said when I was talking about Ty Dillinger, of like gotta build up that mid card again, and it adds some more heat to that match. My gut tells me that Bryan will win, which I'm absolutely cool with whoever wins. It kind of depends on who wins the WWE Championship, because if AJ retains, and this is assuming that AJ and Joe's match takes place before Bryan and Miz's. So let's just say that it does, and that if AJ retains, then or I'm sorry, if Joe wins the title, Bryan will win the match. But if AJ retains, then it could go either way. Mainly because Bryan can face either one of them, and it'll be fine. But Miz and AJ is the only possible match. That makes sense. So I'm curious to see the order of that, but it should be a cool match. Naomi comes out and talks about breast cancer and does the whole Susan G. Komen presentation. This leads us to the match between Asuka and Peyton Royce. The Iconics, in their little inset promo, are very excited to be returning to their home country of Australia and even debut a new dance that is dorky as hell and adorable at the same time. Peyton Royce actually gives a competitive effort against Asuka. She even hits a Widow's Peak, which, if you might remember, older fans, being the finishing move of Victoria or Tara in TNA, if you know her better there. But it was nice to see the Widow's Peak again. I've always been a fan of that move. And but it was not enough. She's no Victoria because Asuka eventually locks in. First, she locks in like a flying knee bar. And then Peyton tries to crawl for the ropes. And then Billy from the outside tries to lend a helping hand, which would be cheating. And Naomi, who is still at ringside, puts a stop to this by taking out Billy. And then Asuka transitions that knee bar into the Asuka lock, kind of, where it was like a combination of the Asuka lock and like a bank statement or a camel clutch. Like she has her knee in Peyton's back, and she kind of bends her backwards while having the Asuka lock locked in. So it was a different variation of it, and it looked painful, and it must have been because Peyton tapped out pretty quick. And yeah, not much to say. Asuka picks up a big win. They're kind of rebuilding her right now, which is absolutely fantastic. We get our final segment of the night. Becky Lynch, who has something to say. She has a thing in the ring. It's like a poster. It's covered in a blanket. And she just kind of talks about her recent new attitude and how she's been done giving, she's taken. I'm done giving, I'm taken. That's my not very feminine Irish accent to emulate Becky Lynch. We even get a video kind of recapping her heel turn and everything she's done up to this point. And she's real happy with herself. Becky's just feeling herself here. And then she goes on a nice little rant saying that despite all her success, the reason she attacked Charlotte last week during the photo shoot was like, the lady I beat is still getting photos and being on magazines and stuff like that. But like, I'm the champ now. Where's my magazine covers? Where's my billboard? Why am I not on the talk shows? Because I absolutely deserve to have all those things. And the crowd, as usual, is completely behind Becky. Like, there's a lot of big Becky chants throughout pretty much her entire segment. And then she's like, you know what? I'm going to remedy that because I should be on the poster for Super Showdown, and let me prove it to you. And of course, she pulls off the blanket, and it's a new Super Showdown poster with an image of her standing over Charlotte Flair with her foot on her dead body holding the title. And she goes on saying that the Super Showdown is not about Triple H versus Undertaker for the last time. It should be about Becky defending the title for the first time, which I thought was a great line. But then Charlotte Flair comes out and is looking, as you would expect, pretty pissed. And in a nice little moment that, I don't know, a lot of people might not have picked up on or maybe cared to pick up on. She comes out clearly holding a mic, so you're thinking like, okay, she's gonna cut a promo. And as she's power walking to the ring, she goes about maybe 2 feet holding the mic, and then she just kind of goes, screw it, and like throws the mic down, takes off her jacket, and sprints to the ring. And I like that touch because it adds spontaneity. Oh man, and as how do you say? I can't say the word. It makes the show, or it makes Charlotte feel more spontaneous as a character. That's what I'm trying to spit out. Because it's like, okay, she had one thing in mind of like, I'm going to retort verbally. But then as soon as she came out and maybe laid eyes on Becky, she just saw red and was like, actually, screw that. I'm going to just come at her. So she just adjusted what she was going to do and just went after her. And I like that little touch. Makes things feel more real. So she gets in the ring. They go at it. Charlotte hits a big spear to cut Becky in half. And then finishes her off by picking her up and hitting a T-bone exploder suplex, which would be a Becky move. I'm assuming that was the idea, is that she kind of basically uses the Bexploder, one of Becky's signature moves, and throws her into the poster, which somehow does not knock the poster over. It just kind of sends it into the corner, like on the podium and everything. So that's pretty impressive. But it does leave Becky laying, and Charlotte to give her a big old woo and pose and stand tall. Again, the crowd is booed Charlotte throughout this entire thing and was still cheering for Becky by the end of it. And that wraps up the show. So as go home shows go, this was a nice one. It kind of touched on all of the major bases for Super Showdown. I've said it before and said it again, Smackdown is the more entertaining show just because they have multiple stories that are all getting equal time, as opposed to Raw that has 3 hours and is primarily centered around one giant story, and then everything else is kind of just there. And then the second biggest story is a nostalgia match that has nothing to do with anything else on the show. Where Smackdown, everything feels much more even, everything feels important, and kind of must see the way that they set things up for the following week. So yeah, it just Smackdown feels like a more substantial and better paced show, as opposed to the more kind of top heavy Raw. So that wraps that up. So thanks for listening, guys. If you want to follow me on Twitter and let me know what you thought about the show, you can do that. I'm at Marcus Stewart 7. That's the number 7. You can also download this show depending on what platform you are. You can find it on YouTube, iTunes, and Podbean. Just search for Marcus Writes About Games. Like, share, subscribe. Really appreciate it when you do that. It's awesome. And I will be back for a review of the Super Showdown. I still haven't nailed down when I'm going to be able to watch it and review it. It's kind of it happens at a weird time, and it's a busy weekend for me. But I will have something up hopefully by Monday, and hopefully it's a good show, because that thing airs at 5 a.m. here in the States. I don't know what that is Eastern time. I'm probably not going to watch it that early, most likely. But after all this build up, I hope it's at least better than Greatest Royal Rumble, which felt like quite a chore to watch. So as long as it's at least better than that, it'll be a marginal success. But we'll see. So thanks for listening, guys. I will see you next week. Thanks for listening.